to the news on Capitol Hill, where tensions are still rising and negotiations are still intensifying as lawmakers reconvene for high-stakes talks after dealing a major blow to President Biden's domestic agenda. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House could potentially vote on a bipartisan infrastructure bill today after Democrats failed to unite behind the president's key legislative priorities yesterday. Progressives threatened to sink that measure until the Senate reached an agreement on a separate massive reconciliation package that the White House says would fund top social programs and help millions of struggling families nationwide. However, moderate Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin remain defiant about lowering the legislation's steep price tag by about $2 trillion.
My top line has not been. My top line has been 1.5 because I believe in my heart that what we can do and what the needs we have right now and what we can afford to do without basically changing our whole society to an entitlement mentality.
All right, for more on this, let's bring in Kris Van Cleave on Capitol Hill and Nancy Cordes, who's joining us from the White House. Kris, let's start with you. What's the latest on the negotiations between moderates and progressives this morning? When can we expect the deal on the package in order to move forward with an infrastructure vote today?
I mean, Vlad, if I knew the answer to that, I would be a very, very important person up here. So
you already are an important person.
You already was. In your eyes. And I appreciate that. It means the world to me. We don't know. The speaker said when she left last night that they were not trillions of dollars apart. Of course, that could mean they could be many, many hundreds of billions of dollars apart. So that still seems like a pretty big gap. Was speaking with a Republican member of the House this morning who was planning to vote for the infrastructure bill. He really thought there was going to be a vote last night. So it's anyone's guess. And just, because Congress time is truly different than the rest of time, they never adjourned yesterday. So technically, in terms of the House, they're still on Thursday. So if you thought your week was long, they're still on yesterday.
Also,
true.
One of our, Vlad and I's VIPs is Nancy Cordes. Don't want you to feel left out, Nancy. We really appreciate you.
I appreciate that.
Chef's kiss for Nancy.
She is definitely VIP. In fact, proof of that is that she's standing by at the White House. And so we know that President Biden has been sort of actively trying to negotiate. It was for the longest time we couldn't even get a bottom line number from the moderates, what they were comfortable with when it comes to the $3.5 trillion plan. Now we find out that they'd like it to be a lot skinnier, like by $2 trillion. I'm wondering if the president's involvement is helping this effort in any way.
The White House says he is standing by, ready to call anyone he needs to call. He's got a pretty open schedule today, so he should have plenty of time to make those calls if he needs to. Just imagine what these negotiations are like in the room. You've got 48 Democratic senators who say they are fine with a $3.5 trillion package. And then you've got two who are saying, I'd like it to be more like 1.5. And so how do you square that circle? You know that there are Democratic leaders, White House officials, all trying to impress upon these two Democratic senators. You're standing in the way of the president's agenda. We're willing to negotiate with you, but you're going to have to come up from that $1.5 trillion position to get a lot closer to where the rest of the Democratic Party is right now. And that's why this is dragging on so long. Like Kris, I thought that it was a sign of movement that Speaker Pelosi said late last night that they are now billions of dollars apart, not trillions of dollars apart. But you got to keep in mind that not only are they negotiating over how big the package will be, but they're also negotiating over how that package will be paid for. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema don't like all the ways that Democrats have proposed paying for this new legislation with increases in some taxes for wealthy individuals, for corporations. So all that is being hashed out, too, which is why you've got Democratic leaders on one hand saying we think we can wrap this up. Joe Manchin on the other saying, I think this is going to take a while. So while everyone would like to see a conclusion today, it's unclear whether we're going to get there.
You know, Nancy, I was struck by something that John Dickerson said today on CBS Mornings when he was asked about whether or not this is potentially embarrassing for the president. But John seemed to indicate that this is sort of normal. This is how the framers intended it to be. And while all of us, and perhaps even the rest of America, is sort of trying to figure out what's going on, and we're placing bets, and we're trying to understand how things are going to work out, ultimately, until these pieces of legislation fail, which they have not yet, it's neutral for the president. I mean, if they pass, it's a win, and if they don't, then we'll deal with the, if it turns out to be embarrassing or not. But I think that that's kind of interesting, too, to highlight for people.
Right. I thought that was a really good point, that you would hope that there would be intense and detailed negotiations when the government was considering spending $2 trillion, right? You wouldn't want to just see that sail through Congress. And frankly, lawmakers don't have a whole lot of experience in the past decade or so negotiating over packages that are this size, because Congress has been gridlocked on so many issues. So in many ways, yes, this is how it works. This is how it's supposed to work. Lots of congressional reporters joke that when you're watching these negotiations play out from outside the room, what it looks like is lots of no, 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 no. And then suddenly, the next minute, yes, we got to yes. And so it looks like, from outside, like things aren't moving or progressing, but it is actually taking place. And I think, one positive sign is that even Manchin, who's, dug in these negotiations, even he seems to believe that there will be a positive outcome at some point. And so for Democrats who are watching, who are nervous about this being the president's, the centerpiece of his agenda, it does appear like they're trying to get to an outcome. It's just not as fast as many progressives would like.
Well, there was one yes yesterday. Yes, yesterday. Congress actually did pass a bill to keep the government open, at least until early December, sort of keeping that ball in the air. So, Kris, what more can you tell us about this? I know Kevin McCarthy was talking yesterday, and he was questioned about, a few other things that could be thrown in there, funding for highways. He was talking about Iron Dome. But what can you tell us about the agreement that they did hammer out?
So this continuing resolution did not have funding for Iron Dome and did not address the fact that the surface transportation funding expired last night. And so let's set those two things aside for a moment. Inside this deal to fund the government through December 3rd is nearly $29 billion in disaster relief funding. That's to help with hurricane relief, wildfire relief. It also allocates $6.3 billion in aid for Afghan refugees. Some Republicans were unhappy that that was added, as they wanted additional vetting built into that money. But nonetheless, it passed with a fairly strong bipartisan support in the Senate, and with 34 or so Republicans voting with Democrats in the House. So the government stays open. For the 3,000 to 4,000 government employees who work on things that are funded by the Surface Transportation Plan. That's highway funding, that's mass transit funding. Those folks' programs have essentially ground to a halt. If there's not a deal on the infrastructure vote here in the next day or so, they're going to have to pass a temporary funding bill so those programs can continue to operate, so the Highway Trust Fund doesn't go insolvent. There's already a measure in the works there to do that, either for a couple of weeks or to tie it to the budget December 3rd. So that's going to move forward. Iron Dome, the House passed that separately with the help of Republicans, so that's going to have to be taken up separately. It was not part of this deal. The Iron Dome, of course, that's funding for the Israeli missile defense system.
All right. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, Nancy, addressed concerns over the debt limit during her briefing yesterday. Let me play a bit of what she had to say.
That's an issue we take incredibly seriously. You've also heard Secretary Yellen on the Hill talking about this. We're not going to let Republicans off the hook. We don't think they should be. This is not a game. This is the full faith and credit of the United States. We're working with Leader Schumer on a path forward.
So, Nancy, could Democrats use the reconciliation bill to raise the debt limit before the U.S. potentially defaults in a few weeks? What's the plan here?
They really, really don't want to have to do that, partly because of the optics. You know, they have been arguing all along that raising the debt ceiling has nothing to do with this $3.5 trillion spending bill, because you have to raise the debt ceiling to deal with spending that has already taken place. They know that Republicans would love nothing more than to say, look, we've got to raise the debt ceiling because Democrats want to do all this new spending. And so Democrats don't want to do anything that would contribute to that argument that Republicans are making. So that's one reason they don't want to tie them together in the same reconciliation bill. The other reason Senator Schumer said is because you'd have to go back and change the amendments, because this wasn't supposed to be part of the reconciliation bill. A lot of procedural challenges to going that route. Now, they don't have many other options at this point, especially if Republicans don't back down. They have vowed not to help Democrats raise the debt ceiling, a big change from the Trump years. They say they're not going to do it. And so if they stick to that, then Democrats may have to scramble and move to a plan B or C or D that they don't really like, if only to ensure that the U.S. Is not at risk of defaulting on its loans, which we know would be an economic disaster.
Yeah, and we've seen that even sort of the threat of defaulting on the loan has had sort of detrimental effects on just the way the U.S. is viewed around the world. So we're all going to be watching closely. Nancy and Kris, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sure thing.